And we're joined now by analyst Dave Webb from the UK Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament. Hello, Mr. Webb. Now, first of all, we know the existing Russia-US treaty expires in only 2 months' time. So do you think the replacement will be adopted at the very last moment? And in general, what results can we expect from the talks?
Well, it certainly seems that it will happen at the very last moment. Yes, in fact, these things very often are arrived at the very last moment, and it's certainly a bit of brinkmanship that this is going on at the moment too. It's not really clear what kind of results we can expect. I mean, I think there was a time when we thought the treaty might disappear altogether, which would be a disaster, I think. But the prolongation of the treaty and perhaps the reduction of more missiles is obviously welcome to the world, I believe.
Now, let's get to the very essence of that treaty. Now, Russia and the United States are leading by example by cutting down their strategic potential. So do you think other countries are willing to follow suit?
Well, it's a very interesting question. As you probably know, we've been campaigning in the United Kingdom now for our government to get rid of our nuclear weapons unilaterally for many years. Talking to our government, they say that they will put their nuclear weapons, our nuclear weapons, the British nuclear weapons on the table at some stage, but they haven't made clear quite when that stage will be. So we have a very small number of nuclear weapons compared with those of Russia and the United States. Even so, they're enough to cause immense devastation and killing millions of people, possibly killing millions of people. So it's important to us in the UK that the government does get rid of our nuclear weapons. And what we believe is that the UK getting rid of our nuclear weapons would encourage the US and Russia to do perhaps even more. And we would hope that other countries would follow suit. I recognise there are other countries have their own difficulties, India, Pakistan, for example. But if at least the steps are taken, then more steps will follow. And so it's important that something happens.
Now, let's get to this possible purchase of Russia's S-400 by Saudi Arabia. So the Saudis are trying to broker a deal with Moscow, it seems. So in return for buying more S-400s, they want Iran's purchase of Russian anti-missile systems blocked. So can we say that there is a U.S. hand behind this power play?
Well, it's difficult to believe there isn't a US hand behind it somewhere or another. In almost any instance of deals like this going on, there's going to be vested interests from all over the world. Here in the UK, it's interesting. I don't know whether you've had the news much, but there's a big news item about the British Aerospace, who have been accused of giving bribes, basically, to Saudi Arabia to get huge arms deals. The problem here is arms dealing, and it's not kind of it's people, a few people making an awful lot of money out of these huge deals that are going on. They're not doing it for the benefit of humankind, for peace and security. They're doing it to make lots of money. And if we're kind of considering those things, then we really need to have a hand on the humanitarian side. What actually these arms are doing. We've been campaigning in Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament against missile defence systems of any kind, because we believe that missile defence actually creates an arms race, generates creates it to happen even more, accelerates the arms race. So we believe that missile defence systems are not really something that anybody should aim for.
Let's get a bit deeper into those possible links. So if Russia agrees to this proposal, can we link it with America's decision last month to shelve its anti-missile shield plans in Europe?
Well, we've heard that America is shelving their plans in Europe, but actually what they've done is withdrawn from two particular bases, one in the Czech Republic and one in Poland. But they haven't actually stopped the missile defence progress, the progress of missile defence in Europe. Again, in the UK, we have two missile defence bases that are already in operation, and there are others planned by the US. So missile defence is by no means, in Europe, is by no means over. I think I can understand that Russia had great difficulties with the US bases that were due to be established or possibly be established in the Czech Republic and Poland, especially missiles in Poland. So I can understand that that caused an awful lot of problems, and that by standing back on that somewhat, the new administration in the US has probably achieved something good in recovering some good relationships with Russia. But I don't think missile defense is by any means over, and there are still a lot of issues to be discussed and tried to work out there.
Well, thank you very much for your opinion. That was Dave Webb from the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament.